I think it's fair to say at this point, we're just gloating. The Jussie Smollett trial is so laughably bad for Jussie that doing segments like this is just so that y'all can grab some popcorn and a beer, sit back and laugh. But we can talk about celebrity, the changing landscape. There are some things happening. I mean, CNN's in flames. People are realizing the hoaxes. They're realizing the lies. And part of that unraveling is the Jussie Smollett trial. It's the story of Jussie Smollett. Now, I think it's fair to say he's innocent until proven guilty. Personally, I think the evidence speaks for itself, but considering the defense hasn't offered up anything at all at this point, I think most of us have seen enough evidence to reasonably conclude that Smollett is a liar, that he staged a hate crime against himself, probably to increase his salary and use it to generate press. And for this, trust in media was seriously damaged. Trust in celebrity was seriously damaged. Right now, it is being reported Jussie Smollett may take the stand as it's his only option. There's no real evidence in his defense. And I got to be honest, he probably shouldn't. He should probably at this point go back to the DA and say, please, I'll take whatever you give me. The Smollett defense team has now tried twice to trigger a mistrial. They're simply trying to delay the inevitable. Jussie Smollett will be convicted. He will be a felon. And thus, the narrative will continue to erode ever so much more. Just a little bit. You see, after Smollett came out and made up all these lies, all of these celebrities, all these TV shows, and everyone in the media was like, oh no, I can't believe that at 2 a.m. in Chicago, in an area that's sparsely populated, 2 Trump supporters would recognize a gay actor from Empire, and they were homophobic and white and wearing MAGA hats, carrying a noose and bleach, and yelled, this is MAGA country. That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. I got to be honest, I've heard some pretty dumb things. Sometimes I say them, to be completely fair. But I've also heard Alec Baldwin's story where he was like, the woman I shot and killed told me to point the gun at her and pull the hammer back. I swear. Talk about dumb stories. Well, now we get to see exactly what's going on here. And for Jussie Smollett, twice now, mistrial attempts. The first is when their defense attorney said the judge lunged at me. And the judge was like, shut up. Yeah, how are you going to get a mistrial? They're trying to get the judge to be forced to be recused or whatever. This is insane. And now they're saying that they weren't able to effectively cross-examine. I'm excited. Today, they're saying Smollett may testify. They're saying the defense may rest its case. Deliberations could come back, I guess, as soon as Thursday. And then when they say guilty, we can all hold up that big sign saying, y'all were wrong about Jussie Smollett. Now, to be fair, I think most of us have already done that. But don't let this one go. Christmas is a coming. And if you find yourself in a situation, now I would never encourage arguing with family members about politics, but if they try and come at you, first, it's not about deflecting. Don't deflect. If they say, Donald Trump did X, if he did, acknowledge it. And you can say, but you got to understand when it comes to trust in media, when it comes to trust in, say, people like Fauci, we have to contend with the fact that there have been numerous stories that have been lies. The Covington kid story was a lie. OK, many people lied. Now, the media may have just gotten it wrong, but a lot of people pushed that lie and the media didn't fact check. You have Russiagate. We spent 3 years, and I in good faith, saying, OK, let's see what the evidence is. We have many more stories. I mean, Ukrainegate, for instance, they tried claiming that there was no investigation into the founder of Burisma and that Trump was wrong to ask about Joe Biden's quid pro quo. That was a lie. We know everything that happened now, thanks to reporters like Matt Taibbi, not a conservative, by the way. And now we have Jussie Smollett. You just simply say, look, I understand you're mad about Trump. You don't like those policies. That's completely respectable. Agreed. But you got to understand half of that is just lies, more than half. And then you can use this as an example. Say, we're in the midst of the Jussie Smollett trial. And it turns out he makes the whole thing up. Oh, you can't just say, no, it's not about one thing. It's about this. It's about Covington. It's about Russiagate. It's about the Shinzo Abe fish thing. It's about Trump getting 2 scoops of ice cream or Trump's salt and pepper shakers bigger. Yo, you can have a reasonable opinion about why you don't like Trump. I respect that. A lot of things about the guy I don't like, and I've always voiced that. But when you lie, or when they lie, and you get caught up in it, don't be surprised when people are like, dude, that's not true. Here's a story from Breitbart. The judge in the Jussie Smollett trial has denied a motion for a mistrial after the defense claimed they were not able to properly cross-examine one of the accused Osundairo brothers. The case seeks to determine whether Smollett, a gay black man, lied to police in 2019 when he said he was the victim of an alleged hate crime attack in Chicago in January of that year. Prosecutors allege the disgraced actor paid $3,500 to two brothers. Abimbola. Okay, so we know all of this, right? On Thursday, Smollett's attorney, Tamara Walker, requested a mistrial over her claims, Cook County Judge James Lynn, of physically lunging at her. CBS News reports. Reports say the encounter happened during a sidebar conversation with attorneys from both sides and Judge Lynn. The judge denied the accusations and also denied the motion for a mistrial. Walker reportedly appeared to be close to tears while debating with the judge and left the courtroom with her mother. What? While the rest of Smollett's team continued to ask for a mistrial. The heated exchange came after cross-examination of Olabinjo Osundairo, who said Jussie Smollett paid him and his brother to stage the hate crime against the Empire star. During the questioning, the judge called the line of questioning collateral in front of the jury, claiming it didn't have any relevance to the crime Smollett is on trial for. The judge's response prompted Walker to ask for a sidebar, but the alleged threat was made during the sidebar. The state has now rested its case. Okay, so this may be one mistrial claim. It sounds like there's two, like she was lunged at and also that they weren't allowed to question properly, but then they went to the sidebar and then a threat was made or something like that. So maybe it was one time. Maybe I'm wrong about that. The state has now rested its case. After a 3-day presentation of evidence, Special Prosecutor Dan Webb told the presiding judge Thursday evening the prosecution was done. The defense began its case immediately, calling him, among others, an emergency room physician who saw Smollett after the purported attack. Judge Lynn later told jurors he expected they would resume deliberations no later than Tuesday. Wow, okay. So maybe it's not Thursday. Maybe we're going to get a verdict very quickly. Sounds like they don't have a defense, and this will all be over very, very quickly. Now, it's being reported, I guess, they're expecting him to testify. Jussie Smollett may have to testify to convince the jury of his case, legal experts say. And the Wall Street Journal has this story, this opinion piece. Well, I don't know. They say Jussie Smollett taking the stand is seen as risky potential defense tactic. Former Empire actor accused of staging the hate crime would be the latest defendant in a high-profile trial to testify. Now, I don't know if he will. By the time you're watching this, maybe he already has. But suffice it to say, everything I've seen so far shows, I mean, their lawyer was there with her mom and like cried and then ran out of the courtroom. Yo, what is going on? You know, this past weekend I was hanging out. There's a casino and horse track race, and they were talking about this one underdog horse or whatever. And I was like, what if this all is a simulation? What if we live in a simulation, or it's a scripted universe of a video game with a storyline, and we are all but ancillary characters, and the main character is somewhere else, who knows? When I see the sheer absurdity that is this case, when I see everything going on in politics, I can't help but say it is all a miracle because it defies probability. And when so many things defy probability that you're 100 times beyond the lottery ticket's chance of winning, I'm just like, there must be something going on. I know people who are religious are probably like, you see it in the universe. Well, look, I'm half kidding. My point is, Jussie Smollett stages this thing, allegedly. The brothers come out and they're like, yeah, he did it. Jussie Smollett's defense is that they're sophisticated criminals who tried to frame him. And then one of the cops was like, but he told us the perpetrators were white. Like, he lied. Now you have his defense attorney apparently running out of the courtroom crying with her mom. What? Is this a sitcom? I've seen sitcoms with crazier writing. This is seriously. But I'll tell you what's really getting crazy. The reason I think this is worth talking about beyond just the fact that we can all, gloat and sit back and laugh this dude's being exposed is that I think it plays a real role in why people are starting to wake up. And let me show you this tweet here that went viral among the anti-establishment. I don't want to say they're right because it's not true. Joy Reid said, so y'all know this is fascisty bananas, right? And the story was DeSantis proposes a new civilian military force in Florida that he would control. Sarah Silverman, she's in that new awful show, Santa Inc. She said, please read the article before you post this stuff. You're a news outlet. The truth has to matter. Whoa! Sarah, what is this? You're fighting the good fight. What do we have? Stephen L. Miller says, drag her queen. Yes. And then you have someone responding saying, Sarah, not great when this guy is defending you. Actually, yeah, it is great. The great unifier, Sarah Silverman. You see, she comes out, speaks the truth, challenges the establishment, and now she has left and right saying, we unite behind the slay queen, Sarah Silverman. I'm kidding, by the way, but the point is, Something happened. Something's happening. I think people are starting to wake up. More and more people are realizing it. Look at what happens in Virginia and New Jersey with these elections. People are like, I ain't voting for these Democrats. Yo, the lies of the mainstream corporate press are not working. And they're working a little bit. They have tremendous influence. People like Sarah Silverman have been coming out. Take a look at this one. This one's really amazing. This is from November 19th. It's a couple weeks ago. So let me just say this. This tweet where she said the truth has to matter is from December 3rd. Take a look at this from Sarah Silverman's podcast. This one didn't get a whole lot of play among the right for the most part. This is her saying the left is lying. Let me play this clip. She posted this clip. Let me play it for you.
And I see it on the right and I see it on the left too. You know, Joe Rogan took horse dewormer. Yes, it's a horse dewormer, but it's also a medication that's given to humans often, on the regular, for different things. You know that. I mean, if you work in news, you know that. The left knows it. But what do they call it? Horse dewormer every single time. And it's not honest. It's to make those people look stupid.
Bravo.
And I don't like that shit. Listen,
Bravo,
a lot
Sarah
of those people
Silverman.
look stupid just fine on their own. But if you're going to fudge the truth to make people seem crazy, then you've lost your standing with me. I'm liberal as fuck. But if what is true isn't most important to you, then you lost me.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for the swearing. I'll make sure to put, when I upload this to the podcast, the explicit warning on it. But I'm all for it. She's completely right. You know she's right because we talk about this stuff all the time. But it's surprising to see someone like Sarah Silverman coming out. And maybe it's because of Covington. Maybe it's because of Jussie Smollett. But mostly I think it might be because of Joe Rogan. I was thinking about this the other day. I went to, where was I at? I was at Zoomies. I was buying a coat. It's getting cold out. I had to get a jacket. And, one of the guys there was just like, you look familiar. Do you skate at the skate park? Do I know? I'm like, oh. And I was like, I don't know. If he doesn't know who I am, he doesn't know who I am. I was like, no, probably not. I was like, oh, whatever. But then as he's gripping, I was getting a new board too. As he was gripping my board, he mentions that he likes listening to podcasts. And I was like, which one? He said, Joe Rogan. And I'm like, Joe Rogan, man, it's crazy to think that here I am in this Zoomies, and they've got this thing on the wall about like Breonna Taylor, no joke, and like wokeism. And this guy says he listens to Joe Rogan, and I'm like, that's probably saving like the fabric of our reality. Isn't it weird to say? Never. I mean, it might sound silly to a lot of people. The left probably hates it, but I think it's absolutely true that Joe Rogan is like the fabric holding this country together with all of his MMA might. He's a ripped guy. You guys probably know this, and he's holding together the left and the right, because if people didn't have that show to listen to, what would they be believing? When Joe Rogan, when they were accusing him of taking horse dewormer, when he was prescribed a medication, and I'm not advocating for any medications. I think if you talk to your doctor, they prescribe something, you just listen to your doctor, okay? CNN comes out, calls it horse dewormer. They defend this, tripling down. It is. And then it's Sarah Silverman coming out and being like, dude, that's not honest. Sarah, much respect. Got a request for you. Santa Inc. is a terrible show. It's got really bad ratings. You're in it. Seth Rogen claims it's white supremacists who are mad about it. Hey, why don't you now? And I mean this with all due respect. Seriously, because I'm very grateful, Sarah, to you calling out the lies. When they just blindly call everyone a white supremacist, it's the same thing. They claim everyone's taking horse dewormer. They claim everyone's a white supremacist. Tell Seth, yo, chill out. That's not honest. Some people just don't like your show. But congratulations on getting free publicity, I guess. I'm glad to see Sarah Silverman coming out and pointing this stuff out. And don't forget, it's not just that. It's what's happening to CNN. Brian Stelter tweets, Axios AM's lead this morning, the right's echo chamber is so much bigger than merely TV and radio. I mean, that's a lie. Conservatives are building their own apps, phones, cryptocurrencies, and publishing houses to circumvent the mainstream tech and media ecosystem. That's the truth. But does it mean there's an echo chamber? What I said was echo chamber implies more than this data shows. Listening to right-wing media does not mean you stop listening to left-wing media. But a big reason for the growth is trust, exemplified by CNN taking as long as it did to fire Cuomo. Cuomo staged his quarantine, and we all know. Even the New York Times pointed it out. Here's what we're seeing. Right wing builds its own echo chamber. This is the lie. This is the lie. Is it an echo chamber if you have a media outlet? No. Because if that were the case, we would just say, well, then the entirety of corporate press is the leftist echo chamber. And I do mean leftist across the board, not just, establishment. I also mean, progressive left. Maybe not the dirtbag left and the commie tankies, but, they get a lot of progressives in there too. They're very woke. Right wing builds its own echo chamber. No. How about right wing builds competition to existing corporate media infrastructure? And they say monthly downloads of right wing apps. You've got the Daily Wire. Look at that. The Daily Wire getting like 84,000. You've got MeWe Network, 96,000. That's crazy on one end. 127. Wow. So it's a lot of downloads. Rumble from 0 to 149K. And they say conservatives are aggressively building their own apps. Yeah, we get it. Many of these efforts couldn't exist without the backing of major corporate figures and billionaires. It's not clear whether the demand will match supply. I mean, look at the downloads. What do you mean? Rumble, they announced, Rumble did a SPAC merger, so they're valued at $2.1 billion. Donald Trump's new social media company, Truth Social, has plans to go public via SPAC, and on Saturday said it secured $1 billion in so-called PIPE financing. I'm not a fan of any of that, to be completely honest. I think we need privately owned, principally led, and decentralized networks. Mostly we need decentralized networks, but I'll take privately owned from someone we know and trust. Public funding can be iffy. But you see what they do? You see how they play this dirty game? It's a right-wing echo chamber. To be fair to Brian Stelter, he said their lead this morning is that there's an echo chamber. I'm not going to accuse Brian Stelter of saying it himself, though. I'm sure he certainly agrees with it. If I make, let's put it this way. I start making my own orange juice. I buy oranges. I make orange juice. And then they say, Tim Pool is on an orange juice diet. And I'm like, what? I have orange juice. It doesn't mean I'm only drinking it. I have hot dog just a moment ago. Calling it an echo chamber is to imply the right isn't getting any information from the left, and that's not true. In fact, what separates the left and the right and moderates from the left, so there's been numerous polls and studies done showing moderates get 2/3 of their news from corporate press and 1/3 from conservative, and conservatives get 2/3 from conservative news and 1/3 from corporate press, whereas liberals get 95% of their news from corporate sources. Suffice it to say, the data shows the right is not in the echo chamber, nor are the moderates. It's the left. And that explains why moderates and conservatives kind of agree on a lot of things. More so now in the culture war. But let me just explain. It's very simple. From Brian Stelter at CNN. CNN fires Chris Cuomo. Oh, only now. And why? Because years ago he was accused of harassing a woman at ABC or something? Spare me your corporate bull. Cuomo pretended he was under quarantine. Pretended. He was not. He was not under quarantine. That was not true. He went out to his property, got into a fight with some guy, went on the radio, talked all about it. And then later on, CNN filmed him emerging from his basement as if he was under quarantine. And I talked to Joe about it, and as much as I can give him praise, I believe it was Joe who was mentioning this to me on a show. He's like, yeah, well, that was a producer who told him to do it. And I'm like, what is it? But he still faked it. He still staged it. It was, and look, I think it's great that we can have someone like Joe but disagree with him. When Sanjay Gupta wrote an essay, he said part of him was scared that Joe Rogan was going to jump the table and throttle his neck. And Joe said, he's just trying to be funny. And I'm like, what? Look, okay, fine. That's your opinion with respect, but I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is a guy, Sanjay Gupta, said he never had a 3-hour conversation with someone before, which to me is insane. I mean, for me, growing up, we all would hang out at parties and just sit there like watching, with music on, drinking for hours and just talking about stuff. People would hang out on the stoop with a 40 or whatever. And this is a guy who's like, I've never had a conversation that lasted 3 hours. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, haven't you been with family over the holidays where you're just like sitting in the living room as the turkey's in the oven for like 5 hours and you're just talking about stuff? It's weird. It is. And I don't think you should give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'll tell you this. People trust Rogan. They trust his show. They trust independent media, and the tides are changing. And this could be what prevents major collapse in the culture war. As more and more people start breaking out of the matrix and waking up, The establishment, the machines are eventually losing. They're losing more and more power, more and more control, and more influence is being taken from them. I'd like to thank our good friend Jussie Smollett for helping exacerbate this problem for the establishment, in that by staging this ridiculous hate crime, allegedly, many people saw this and said, I'm being lied to. One more grain of sand in the heap of us realizing the lies and the manipulation. And good, because it's time people started breaking away from this stuff. So I think by tomorrow, maybe we'll find out Jussie Smollett is guilty, and that'll be big. So I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. We'll get serious and talk about some serious news, a little celebrity gossip for this morning, but I think it does matter. Celebrities have great influence over our culture, and they're starting to lose it. Real quick, I was talking to some guys 10 years ago at this conference, and I said, fame as we know it is going away. And they refused to believe that's not true. It'll never happen. And I said, the internet has made it so there's no longer, 5 channels. There's millions. So there may be people who are more famous than others, but it's not going to be like there's these A-listers who walk around anymore. There are certain people that are really famous. Let me shout out somebody. Let's say Aurelian Giraud, however you pronounce your name. Probably one of the best skateboarders in the world right now, but you probably never heard that name. To skateboarders, he's the most famous guy ever. To you, not so much. What's happening with the internet is more and more subcultures are emerging, which means there is fame, but it's not like Walter Cronkite level, the only guy on TV everyone knows and trusts. It's breaking apart. This is good. Decentralization is good. I'll leave it there. I'll see y'all at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out.